Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Just continuation of the story, reflecting back to the story picture photo, if you've been following me from Facebook, of the three men, and two of them were my I worked with, one of them being my boss and the other one was a work colleague. Just to finish off with the last story, how I knew I was being set up, he was being set up and I was being set up, because it was exactly same patterns that I'd gone through in the past two incidents before the third one. Now, I knew I was being micromanaged. Those who don't know what being micromanaged is, unfortunately, that's a modern day name for conspiracy. It's when somebody else is actually micromanaging your circumstance completely, where your whole environment is being initiated or an afterthought or planned by somebody else you don't know. I knew I was being micromanaged and I knew I was on my way out. But the leading up to me being pushed out of my job at the time, I was being railroaded out of my job. So what had actually happened was, going back to my boss, there was one of my work colleagues at the time was actually going to leave his occupation, and so we had a work due. There was a work due planned to say our goodbyes as a team. I knew that that my boss was going to be there, so I was, because he was going, naturally I thought I'll go too, but then it was cancelled, or I was told by someone that it wasn't going to happen, so I didn't end up going. But then not long after that, leading up to the use of, why I believe he was set up with this other female, was the action and the things that took place after that was wrong. So people were actually, I felt the whole environment was so seriously immature and dangerous for me. I just couldn't believe. I was horrified that it was happening, but because I was used to it and everyone who'd been part of it all used to it and didn't see anything wrong in it. But I was in the receiving end of the abuse. But it got so seriously dangerous for me that they were making really, really severe threats, indirect threats. But I was used to this, like I said before, it's happened before, but I knew I was on my way out because of the intensity of the incidents that actually occurred at the time. I couldn't do anything about it except complain. So that's what I did. I complained about it, and then I was pushed out. But that's another story, and I will talk that in another video, what happened after that when I got pushed out from my job. But everything all links together, everything historically. Now the other guy, he was my work colleague, and I was introduced to him by someone else. He'd worked with the same job as I was, but he'd worked in the same company for 9 years. And we both did exactly the same role, except I had a little bit more experience because I've moved around in different jurisdictions. So, but I met him at a workshop, and that's how it all sort of kind of started. We sat next to each other, and then from there I went back to my office after the workshop, and he sent me an email and we got talking, and I sensed where the email was going. I sensed that he was interested in another. I could read by his email that he was wasn't your normal professional email, but that I was okay with that. So I went along with it, but I did tell him, hey, we better, cut this short. I can't remember exactly what I said, but I did try to brush him off and cut, our conversation short, because I knew I was being under some kind of surveillance, and I didn't want either of us to get into trouble. So I told him that, and he'd like, oh, nothing's going to happen. And it was all harmless. He was just being a male. Yeah, he was just behaving like normal males do. But from that, it led to me and him's first date. Now, we had our first date, and we got to know each other, really close at that first date, and we got talking and stuff like that. And but yeah, I really felt like what we had for each other could go somewhere. And but then he just disappeared, and I got really worried. He started going through all kinds of things at work, and before I knew it, he left work, and he kind of sort of just disappeared. And there were a lot of things about that relationship that didn't make sense. I felt like he wasn't allowed to talk to me. I felt like somebody was in complete control of who spoke to me, who saw me, and he just wasn't natural anymore. Something wasn't right, and I was really worried about him, and I was really worried about my boss too at the time. And I tried to tell them that that what was happening with me, I knew I was, they were being set up. I knew I was being set up, and I was really worried about later on. But they were all in on it at the time. When something's wrong, when somebody walks into a premeditated set of circumstances, there is no way you got a clue that what's happening to you, the seriousness or the danger that lays ahead, except for the people who, one, has initiated it and is well aware of the issues, and two, the actual person or the victim or the subject in this case. And in this case, it's me. So that's what happened. Okay, you have to keep in mind the incidents I've been talking about reflects back say 3 years ago now. So, but at the time, the reality of it was very, very traumatizing, and very, extremely ferocious, and yeah, just the, words can't explain the pain and the suffering that goes with somebody completely into your emotions, into your affairs, and just interfering completely. However, I did know that I was being micromanaged, and that I couldn't do anything about it. But what I have found in what I've been going through, is that I feel like I've been part of the project I've been subject to, is that they're testing my emotions, they're studying everything I do, and then they're interpreting it or building a case on the information without any consultation with me. So that's what makes my case very serious. You can basically sum up what's actually happened in my situation, and the reasons for the actual historical abuse or micromanaging. Basically, your liberty is taken away. That's what's happened. They took away my liberty. And then I was, everyone in my environment was being micromanaged, or so everything was staged. I've known that for a very long time. And now that I'm out of it and I look back, I can't believe what I've just come out of. I cannot believe historically what I've suffered. Historically, it is a very overpowering, destructive force when you're in it. And there is no way anyone will survive if someone got into your personal space that close. Okay, I'll leave it there for now. Just a reminder, the question that I asked from the last video clip, I will do a special video clip just in relation to that question. So I'd ask you what law covers you, protects your security as a human being or as a person. So if you can find out the laws and the rules in your country that relates to what I've just said, and it helps you understand too what is a breach of fiduciary duty. So I'll be able to explain that in more detail in the next video clip. So that's next week. Sorry, this one is late.